අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT Mobitel දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9. This Thursday, the 17th of August 2023. Assurances. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena promises to uphold the One China policy, highlights the importance of Chinese investment in Sri Lanka. Pricing formula. New tariff policy for water within the next 4 months, says Water Supply Minister. Tourism policy. Sri Lanka to accelerate efforts to attract 5 million tourists annually. Hotel school to be established with international standards. Reducing corruption. Port community system to be introduced to increase the efficiency of ports and reduce corruption.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සොඩයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක. Rhino Cement Roofing Sheets. හොඳම මෙලට කල් පවතින වහරයක්.
This is AdaDerana First at 9 with Indivadi Amuata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome. You're joining us on our prime time English news telecast. And we take you to your top story tonight. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena assured that Sri Lanka will continue to uphold the One China policy in all spheres, including at bilateral and multilateral fora. Addressing the 7th China-South Asia exhibition, the Sri Lankan Prime Minister said the Chinese investments are critical to propel Sri Lanka's economy and encouraged more government and private sector investments. Meanwhile, Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi assured that China will help Sri Lanka effectively address challenges of outstanding debt.
During his visit to China to participate in the 7th China-South Asia exhibition as its chief guest, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena called on Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi. During talks, Foreign Minister Wang Yi has vowed that China will support Sri Lanka effectively address challenges of debt. The Chinese Foreign Minister has also assured that China will help Sri Lanka improve capacity for independent development, accelerate industrialization process and agricultural modernization. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena meanwhile expressed Sri Lanka's appreciation for China's support during difficult times, while also acknowledging China's assistance towards safeguarding Sri Lanka's independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena met with Vice President of Vietnam Tran Lo Quang on the sidelines of the 7th China-South Asia Expo in Kunming. The Vietnamese Vice President accepted the request by the Sri Lankan Prime Minister to explore the possibility of new areas of trade and investment in addition to the current joint ventures in the public and private sectors. The Premier also discussed with the Vietnamese Vice President on expanding cooperation in agriculture with special focus on rubber, coconut and tea, fisheries, alternative energy and mining. In the meantime, the Prime Minister graced the 7th China-South Asia Expo in Kunming yesterday as a chief guest.
I would like to congratulate that Sri Lanka continues to uphold the One China policy in all spheres, including bilateral, multilateral fora, and our judicial fora, are contributing to the in Sri Lanka. We acknowledge with appreciation China has extended much needed support in debt restructuring resources, which was essential to secure international support. We are confident that China will continue to cooperate in the future towards Sri Lanka's broader economic recovery. Investment from China to propel Sri Lanka's economy and also to all present to encourage more government private sector investment in trade, cooperation, ventures to our country and our countries in Asia. Chinese tourism have been one of the key strengths of the Sri Lankan tourism industry. Mainly thanks to the announcement of the government, this Dinesh, and the Chinese Ministry of Culture and Tourism, placing Sri Lanka among the top 20 countries for tourism. I think this opportunity as Prime Minister of Sri Lanka to call for the joint effort between our countries to enhance tourism among us as collectively we have much more to offer.
The Water Supply and Drainage Board announced today that production of drinking water has dropped by about 9% due to the prevailing dry weather conditions. Agricultural production and power generation are the first to be adversely affected by the severe drought prevailing. However, according to officials, the next threat is to the supply of drinking water. Meanwhile, Minister of Water Supply Jeevan Thondaman said a new tariff policy for water bills will be introduced within the next 4 months and it will be subjected to be reviewed every 6 months, similar to the electricity tariff structure.
The Water Supply and Drainage Board said that the issue of adequate supply of drinking water has already arisen in the provinces of Southern, Northwestern, North Central and Northern. The drying up of water sources is the main reason for this situation. According to the Water Board, water is supplied from 267 water sources to meet the drinking water requirements across the island, but a significant amount of that is now at risk.
මේ ජල මූලාශ්‍ර වලින් දැනට මූලාශ්‍ර 42ක් අවදානමකට ලක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. එම නිසා අපේ නිෂ්පාදන ධාරිතාවෙන් 109ක් මේ වෙන විට අඩු වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒත් එක්කම අපිට ලංකාව පුරාම water connections ගාන මිලියන 2.96ක්. ඒ ජල සම්පාදන සම්බන්ධන වලින් මේ දක්වා අවදානමකට ලක් වෙලා තියෙනවා 54580ක්.
එතකොට ජලය අත්හිටුවීමක් ජලය කැපීමක් ඉස්සරහට සිදු කරන්න සිද්ධ වෙයිද මොකක්ද ඒකේ තත්ත්වය?
කාලගුණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව දන්වා තිබෙන්නේ මෙම තත්ත්වය ඔක්තෝබර් මැද හරියේදී මගහැරිලා වර්ෂාපතනේ ලැබෙවි කියලා. අපි ඇත්තටම කොළඹ ගන්නවා නම් අපේ ලබුගම සහ කලටුවාව යන ජලමූලාශ්‍ර දෙකෙහිම තියෙනවා මෙම මාස දෙක සඳහා අවශ්‍ය ජලය. ලබතලේ සහ බියගම ජල පුම්පාගාරවල ජල මට්ටම අවශ්‍ය මට්ටමට පවත්වා ගැනීමට පුළුවන් වුණොත් අපිට ගම්පහ සහ කොළඹ දිස්ත්‍රික්කවල ජල සැපයුම මේ අඛණ්ඩව සිදු කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවනි ඒ දක්වා.
Meanwhile, Minister of Water Supply Jeevan Thondaman said that a new water tariff policy will be introduced within the next 4 months and it will be subjected to be reviewed every 6 months, similar to the electricity tariff formula that is revised in January and July every year.
All of us were tasked with basically making our institution sustainable. To be honest, we have tried everything within our means. We have cut cost within the water board. At the same time, we are also exploring opportunities into renewable energy where we can decrease our dependency on electricity. Because as all of you are aware, I think in January this year, electricity had increased by 66%, and in February we had announced that we are going for a water tariff hike, simply because we were losing 425 million rupees a month. Along with that, I think about 2.8 billion rupees was the total loss we were making every month. We understand that there are concerns about the water tariff hike, but as far as the conceptualization of the tariff hike is, we have made sure that the vulnerable section is protected. At the same time, we have made sure institutions which are of public use are also protected. And I would like to reassure the people that within the next 4 months, we are going to come up with a comprehensive water tariff policy. And this policy will also be revised and it will be reviewed along with the electricity revision, which takes place once in 6 months. And the reason we are doing this is to make sure that the water board becomes a sustainable entity and the water sector does not have any risks of collapsing. Because tomorrow if the water sector were to collapse, then that will lead on to issues beyond which we can imagine. So with that being said, yes, this drought is unexpected. As I mentioned earlier, we have no control over it. However, we do understand the difficulties faced by the people in this situation. So rest assured, the government along with various other stakeholders and the water board as well, we are on the problem and we are trying to fix it. And we are confident that if any issues were to arise, we would be able to tackle it effectively. You know, whenever we say the word hike, immediately there's a stigma around it. You know, what we are trying to say is we have given out the numbers. We've even submitted it to Parliament. We have had our consultative committee meeting as well. And we have clarified our stand. Right now, we are in this situation and we are trying to take hard decisions so that we don't have to suffer later on. So with this water resources management policy also, we believe there will be an effective management of the water resources within this country.
And the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka has granted approval to the Ceylon Ceylon Electricity Board to procure 100 megawatts of electricity generation capacity on short-term basis for a period of 6 months. The PUCSL approval has been granted under the provision of the Sri Lanka Electricity Act to proceed with the procurement process for adding a generation capacity of 100 megawatts in the southern area for 6 months from the 18th of August, subject to several conditions. According to the PUCSL, the short-term expansion of generation capacity will operate on merit basis and transmission licensee through an independent dispatch audit at the end of power purchase agreement period. PUCSL stated that the Kotmale new Polpitier 220 kilowatt line has to be energized before the 31st of August next year. The PUCSL also noted that procurement of supplementary power shall be done on the least cost basis. Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation Nimal Siripal Silva highlights as important to urgently improve efficiency at Sri Lanka's ports while reducing levels of corruption. Addressing a workshop in Colombo, the Ports and Shipping Minister said the establishment of a port community system remains essential to make the country's ports more competitive and efficient.
A workshop on the establishment of a port community system for Sri Lanka Ports Authority was held in Colombo last evening. According to the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Aviation, a port community system is an electronic platform that connects multiple systems operated by various organizations that operate in a port community and helps optimize and manage the port and logistic processes through a single submission of data. It is also set to engage with all stakeholders to ensure sustainable and efficient electronic exchange of data and prevent use of unnecessary and costly paper procedures and reduce the duplication of data input.
I had the opportunity to look into the various shortcomings in the systems we are adapting here. So when I went to Singapore about 2 months ago, and when I inquired from many developed ports, I found that port community system is a must for a port of this nature because we have to compete. Our efficiency has to be increased and the corruption has to be decreased or make it zero if possible, for which purpose we need this port community system very much. But for Sri Lanka, we are still a growing nation in the area of science, technology and innovation. So therefore it is very necessary to ensure that our administrators, our technicians and our operators, everybody embrace this new technology which is prevalent in the other part of the world. And a lot of ports around the Indian Ocean, around Sri Lanka, are growing, are embracing the new technology, utilization, automation, etc. So therefore, we have moved away. This business of port management and transshipment has moved away from the traditional way of handling it. So therefore, it is the need of the hour. It is very essential that we should establish this system without any delay. Because in the open market economy, whether your country is small or big or large or medium size, it doesn't matter. You have to compete with all other ports in the world. So therefore, we have no other option to make our port competitive port, efficient port. That is the ultimate goal of this port community, establishing this port community system.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says his party is in the strong belief that industries fuel the local economy and that, therefore, businesses and entrepreneurs should be strengthened through humanistic capitalism, the social market economy and in a social democratic framework.
A meeting between local entrepreneurs and the opposition leaders' parliamentary committee was held at the parliamentary complex under the patronage of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
නියෝ ලිබරල් ඉකොනොමික් සිස්ටම් එකකට ගිහිල්ලා සමාජයේ ඉහළම තලයේ ඉන්න පෝසතා ශක්තිමත් කිරීමේ ප්‍රතිලාභ ටික පහළට කාන්දු වෙයි කියන ප්‍රතිපත්තියේ අපි නැත. බිලියන 600ත් 700ත් අතර බදු සහන දීලා රටේ බංකොලොත් භාවයට මුලපිරුවේ අන්න ඒ ක්‍රියාත්මක වුණු ට්‍රිකල් ඩවුන් ඉකොනොමික්ස් නිසා. එතන අපි නැහැ. අපි ඉන්නේ මැද මාවතේ. ඒ විකල්පය තමයි මානුෂීය ධනවාදය තුළ සමාජ වෙළඳපොළ ආර්ථිකය තුළ සමාජ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී ක්‍රමවේදය තුළ මේ රටේ ව්‍යවසායකත්වයේ ශක්තිමත් කරලා ව්‍යාපාර ශක්තිමත් කරලා ධනය උත්පාදනය කිරීමත් සීමා සහිත රාජ්‍ය මැදිහත් වීම තුළ ධනවාදයේ තියෙන අඩුපාඩුකම් ඇඩ්‍රස් කරලා බෙදී යාම සාධාරණව ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමේ සංකල්පය අපි තරයේ විශ්වාස කරනවා. අපේ හැම ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් තුළම ව්‍යාපාරික ශේෂ්ත්‍රවලට තමන්ගේ කුසලතාවය තුළ ඉහළ ඉලක්ක කරා යෑම සඳහා සම භූමියක් අපි නිර්මාණය කරනවා. අදටත් ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන ගජමිතුරු ධනවාදය හරහා ඒ සමබිම නිර්මාණය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා ආර්ථිකයේ ගොඩනගන ප්‍රධාන ඩයිනමෝව එන්ජිම කර්මාන්ත.
Now, Professionals Trade Union Collective refused to enter the Presidential Secretariat today for a discussion they demanded with government officials on the government's tax policy. The Trade Union Collective, which comprise of unions including Government Medical Officers Association, Federation of University Teachers Association and the Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union, were denied entry to the premises this afternoon as prior notice or a request for an appointment was not communicated to officials. Following the refusal, a tense situation erupted between security officials of the premises and the trade union representatives. However, later, an additional secretary who arrived at the premises communicated to the trade union representatives that they will be given another opportunity for discussion. President Ranil Wickremesinghe directs officials to accelerate initiatives to attract 5 million tourists annually. We'll come back with details on the other side of this break.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින්. වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින්.
Sri Lanka will begin work towards attracting 5 million tourists to the country annually. President Ranil Wickremesinghe today directed relevant officials to accelerate efforts towards the goal.
The directive was issued during a meeting at the Presidential Secretariat yesterday, where President Ranil Wickremesinghe engaged with the committee responsible for assessing the progress of Sri Lanka's tourism industry and proposing measures to establish Sri Lanka as a prominent tourist destination. During the discussion, initiatives to enhance Sri Lanka's appeal and convenience as a destination were focused. According to the President's office, ongoing plans and the role of the private sector in promoting the tourism industry were also taken up for discussion. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has also directed officials to identify a suitable location in collaboration with the private sector for the establishment of a hotel school of international standards in Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, plans to establish an investment infrastructure corporation alongside setting up of a decision-making council have been discussed. PMD said that regional committees will be set up under Provincial Tourism Board across all 9 provinces.
The Colombo Bourse today commenced trading on a strong footing and gradually transitioned into a phase of slight profit-taking during midday session. In spite of the profit-taking, market managed to conclude the day on a positive note at 11,426, registering a gain of 39 points, supported by price gains in counters such as Central Finance Company, DFCC Bank and Sampath Bank. The more liquid S&P SL20 index closed negative. High net worth and institutional investor participation was noted in John Keel's Holdings, Ceylon Tobacco Company and Melstacorp. Mixed interest was observed in Pan Asia Bank Corporation, DFCC Bank and Central Finance Company, whilst retail interest was noted in Hella Apparel Holdings, Brown's Investments and LOLC Finance. Treasury shares meanwhile attracted investor engagement due to a significant decline in T-bill yield rates of over 200 basis points since yesterday's weekly auction. Market turnover was recorded at 4.7 billion rupees, surpassing the monthly average turnover of 3.6 billion by 30%. Banking and diversified financial sectors jointly contributed 59% of overall turnover. Meanwhile, trading volume on the CSE index fell to 133.9 million shares from 137.9 million in the previous session. Foreign participation in the market remained at subdued levels, with foreigners purchasing stocks worth 272.2 million rupees. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Now, oil prices were choppy today after falling over the past 3 sessions, with a bleaker undertone on worries that slowing growth in China and possible further US interest rate hikes will weaken fuel demands in the world's 2 biggest economies. Analysts say crude prices are going to struggle as the world's 2 largest economies witness bearish sentiment.
Brent crude futures were flat at $83.45 a barrel by 6:45 GMT after initially falling 0.5%. US West Texas Intermediate crude was down 8 cents at $79.30 a barrel. Analysts point out that China's economic concerns and broad risk-off sentiment on Wall Street pressed on the oil markets, with a strong US dollar adding to the downside pressure at the same time. Traders will closely watch Chinese economic data and government policy moves, in addition to US oil inventory data, as oil producers in the country could start increasing output to gain market share amid production cuts by the OPEC Plus group. China's central bank unexpectedly cut key policy rates for the second time in 3 months this week, but analysts worry it may not be enough to arrest the economy's downward spiral. Minutes of the US Federal Reserve's July meeting released yesterday also weighed on oil prices, as they showed that the central bank's officials did not give strong indicators about pausing rate hikes as they continued to prioritize the battle against inflation.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. I'm Indivadi Amuatta. Good night.